Motherfuckers, how we doing? It's a beautiful goddamn afternoon here in Blighty. This is summer. This is barbecue weather. This is the solo edition of A. Thompsin and Other Disappointments. If it's your first time tuning into this shit, maybe you found me on Twitter or TikTok or, I don't know, fucking read the biro on a toilet door, because that's about the most that my PR budget can handle right now. This podcast is your usually twice weekly delve into the worlds of politics and perhaps more accurately dystopia. It's a Theresa May-esque gallivant through the fields of anxiety and despair with a hand on heart, we're all in this together layer of doom lols and gallows humour. Basically, it's like, we're all fucked. Now, grab a beer and talk shit with me. That's the kind of vibe. Solo shows are usually about 45 minutes, but Friday nights I normally get a guest in and we talk shit about life, love, politics, beer, and stuff. So that's the vibe, guys. Quick shout out before we jump into the Patreons. Thanks very much to Rax, Ricardo, Silent, T-Rex, Oliver, Sarah, Paul, and Kerry. You guys are the first 8 to support the show, and for that I will always be super grateful. Much love. More on the Patreon at the end of this episode if you're interested in events and exclusives and so on. Okay, so what's in the news? Let's take a look. Here's some shit, right? So I saw this in The Guardian on Friday, and it made my pants pregnant. It gave my funny bone a funny boner. It pleased me, my beauties, my bimfluencer. Like, why is it, I don't know why it is that it pleased me. Like, that sounds creepier than making my pants pregnant. I don't know, like, what the logic is there. But if you say, like, it pleases me, like, there's just something, I don't know, like creepy about that, isn't it? Anyway, it's in the Guardian, which for any newer listeners, I suppose, the first story I've picked is from the Guardian, so it's hardly dispelling the myth that I'm some lefty libtard metropolitan elite Ramona or whatever. But fuck it. Here's the headline: California governor signs gun control law modelled after Texas anti-abortion measure. There's quite a lot to unpick there. California governor signs gun control law modelled on Texas anti-abortion measure. And the subheading is, law allows people to sue anyone who distributes illegal assault weapons or parts used to build weapons or 50 caliber rifles. Point 50 caliber. I don't know what the difference is between a 50 caliber or like point caliber stuff, like whatever. Anyway, so first couple of paragraphs. Here we go. Let's get into it, guys. California punched back Friday against 2 recent landmark U.S. Supreme Court decisions as the state's governor signed a controversial first-in-the-nation gun control law patterned after a Texas anti-abortion law. The action by Gavin Newsom, a Democrat, comes 1 month after conservative justices overturned women's constitutional right to abortions and undermined gun control laws in states including California. It says Newsom stitched the 2 hot-button topics together in approving a law allowing people to sue anyone who distributes illegal assault weapons, parts that can be used to build weapons, guns without serial numbers, or .50 caliber rifles. They would be awarded at least $10,000 in civil damages for each weapon, plus attorney's fees. So, okay. Now, let's sort of unpick this. Let's get into it, guys. So there's this state law where in California, if you're culpable for an illegal firearm that got into somebody's hands and shot someone, I guess, it's difficult to understand why you would be suing unless you had some sort of relationship to somebody who had been shot with it. I'm assuming that's the case. Could be wrong. basically you can be sued for 10 grand. Now, on the face of it, that sounds quite good, doesn't it? It's not quite gun control, but it is saying if you manufacture guns illegally, or you're even found to have supplied like parts to someone who has, 10 grand fine, right? That sounds, on the face of it, cool. I mean, like, I don't want to sound uncouth here. Like, here's the thing. I don't want to sound crass or like, I don't even know what the word is, but like I don't have 10 grand to throw around, right? But doesn't $10,000, it doesn't feel that much to me for this. Do you know what I mean? Like selling illegal firearms that end up killing people. $10,000, really? You know? Like how much did OJ pay for the death of his wife and her rumored lover? Wasn't that like $20 million? $30 million? And it's like, oh, you could sue someone for $10,000 if you're really upset about it. Like, what the fuck? But I like the principle. You know, like scratch off the serial number or sell magazines to some shady guy with no fixed address who's been convicted twice before of supplying firearms to the Bloods or the Crips, or, you know, maybe you get a 10 grand fine in your lap now, you know? Maybe if it's for every instance. I think it said, like, for every gun, didn't it? For every gun that you're found to have supplied, it could be another $10,000, you know? Like, or maybe if you sold a box of 50 magazines, then if it's like 50 times $10,000, which, you know, that is actually kind of the shit that they do in America anyway, isn't it? I don't even know if they need to do this in this particular law, because it's like they'll arrest you on suspicion of being the bank robber, you know, but then you'll end up charged with 17 different felonies, each one carrying another jail sentence. Like, layer that shit up like it's a tort cake. Do you know what I mean? Like, I thought robbing a bank was like 10 years. Yeah, but you also attempted to rob a bank. What? And you conspired to rob a bank. What? Like, what the fuck are you talking? I robbed a bank. What's the penalty for robbing a bank? Yeah, then on top of that, you also had 2 previous convictions, so this is your 3rd strike, and you had an unlicensed dog, and you were driving 50 in a 40. And then you're like, well, all right, just give it to me straight. Like, how many years am I getting? 127. Like, what the fuck? You're a terrible lawyer. The lawyer's like, hey. You're like, what? Like, all I did was run in a bank and tell them to give me the fucking money. I didn't even have a gun on me. Like, that's it. Like, what kind of lawyering is that? Then the lawyer's like, I got it down from lethal injection. And then you're like, right, okay, well, that's actually pretty good then. Thanks a lot for all that you do. So there's this new law where you can sue people if they've been involved in illegal firearms selling. Right, cool. We understand this. And in this article, the Democrat governor goes on. There's a quote. It says, while the Supreme Court rolls back reasonable gun safety measures, which apparently they have also been doing, rolling back gun safety measures, he says California continues adding new ways to protect the lives of our kids. And this is a key thing. Like, from where he's coming from and where most logical people who possess some level of compassion are coming from, it's like, we are actually pro-life because we're looking at ways of preserving life. You claim to be pro-life because of some weird shit you read in a book, and that's great. Good for you. Reading books is good. But it's like, how? I mean, are you really pro? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a definite disconnect there. And that's what this guy's tapping into. He says, while the Supreme Court rolls back reasonable gun safety measures, California continues adding new ways to protect the lives of our kids. It says that's what he said in a statement released before he signed the bill. And he goes on, he says, California will use every tool at its disposal to save lives, especially in the face of an increasingly extreme Supreme Court. That's his words. He's calling the Supreme Court extreme. So he's kind of picking a fight with the Supreme Court there, right? Following the repealing of Roe v. Wade, the rollback of women's rights, he's saying, hang on a second, if the Supreme Court are going to be all fucking Texas Taliban and, you know, Bible bashing and shit, like maybe we look at our own federal state specific laws. And this is kind of an interesting road for US politics to take, an interesting trajectory, because it's the one thing that America had over everyone else was, yes, they're disparate states and there's different cultures going on. You've got the rednecks, then you've got the East Coast guys, then you've got the West Coast guys, then you've got the, you know, basically Canadian guys up like super north, you've got the Midwest, you got a lot of different types of people. And that's before we get even into actual differences in race and culture and the history of slavery. You've got a whole disparate, vast array of people. But the one thing that they had was that they were united. They were willing to stand together. That's something that they had. Like, a lot of people talked for a while about the United States of Europe, but it never really gained much traction. I think probably because, in my opinion, rightly, you would never successfully align all of the states of Europe into being one nation. Like, we're just too different, I think. Anyway, but the one thing that America had was that their states were all united and they all stood underneath this flag and they were like, yes, we are the USA, right? But now with this sort of shit, it's like they're going down a slightly dangerous road, because it's like, we're going to do our shit over in California and you can do your shit in Texas, and slowly we're going to diverge. Or at least that's how it feels to me in my hugely unqualified American political opinion, right? Anyway, there's more. And this is kind of where it gets clever or interesting. It says, lawmakers patterned the bill at Newsom's request after a Texas law allowing citizens to sue anyone who provides or assists in providing an abortion. The US Supreme Court gave preliminary approval to the Texas law, but California's law will automatically be invalidated if the Texas law is eventually ruled to be unconstitutional. I'm going to read that again, right? Make sure we really understand it. Mostly because I'm fucking hungover as fuck. And if you want me to understand anything after 6 cans of 6% IPA, you are going to need to explain it to me at least twice. It doesn't compute. It's just, you know, repetition required. So we're going to have to read it again. You know, like, a slight tangent here, right? You know when you get in an argument with your other half and they're like, how many times do I have to fucking say this shit to you? I'm like, a lot. You need to explain this to me several times. You know, like if it's a Saturday or a Sunday and I've been self-medicating through the weekend parenting, it's a lot. I'm sorry that it's a lot that you have to repeat it, but it is a lot. In spite of that apology, you still have to do it. Like, me on a weekend is like some sort of special needs thing, though. Like, I'm not trying to be sort of, you know, ableist with this stuff. Like, but it kind of is. It's like, I really feel it's kind of in that territory. Like, my girlfriend will try and explain something to do with our finances or holiday plans or, you know, the car lease or something, you know, and I'm just tired and barely responsive and hungover. And so quite reasonably, it's like, she'll be like, why can't you get this through your fucking head, you buck-toothed, big-eared cretin? And I'm like, I had 6 Beavertown last night. Give me a fucking minute to just process what you're saying. And she's like, fine, but like all I said was, can you put some toast on? Like, are you sure you don't need some sort of assessment done? Anyway, like, way off tangent here. So let us actually reread this bit. So, in fact, do you know what? I'm going to take a quick sip of beer just to, you know, get in this swing of things and to cure the fucking hangover. Hold on. I don't know at what point a podcast stops being like topical and political and actually just becomes a live feed of one man's collapsing battle with alcoholism. But I sense that we're sort of, we're on that line, dancing on tiptoes on that line. Right, so we're going to reread this bit. Lawmakers patterned the bill at Newsom's request after a Texas law allowing citizens to sue anyone who provides or assists in providing an abortion. So in Texas, you can sue someone for providing or assisting in the provision of an abortion, because that's the thing they get upset about. In the womb life. Not life. It's like, don't kill that baby. You're like, no, it's cool. Like, it's been born now. Oh, right. Give it a gun and throw it in the ghetto then. Like, you're fucked. I think it was George Carlin that said, Republicans, they really care about babies in the womb. But then once they're out, you're fucked. Like, I mean, look, my delivery is nothing on George Carlin, clearly. But, it is true. If you want any sort of help from the US government, bear in mind, I know there's a Democratic government in there at the moment, but the institutions are still largely Republican, largely right-leaning. And even if the Democrats were running shit, even the Democrats are pretty conservative. I think I've spoken about this before on this podcast, but I remember an episode of Have I Got News For You where Ian Hislop was sort of musing about it. I think there was an American on the show, and he said, yes, because, things are different over here because we have a left government and a left-leaning party and a right-leaning party, whereas in America you have a right-leaning party and then a further right-leaning party. Like, it's no secret that America is quite gaudy, quite conservative. It's, very flag-wavy, right? But yeah, if you want any sort of help with, like, from the US government, you need to ask for that shit prenatal, basically. Like, can you help me? Can you protect me? No, fuck off and die. But I'm in the womb. Oh, well, fucking yes, obviously. Yeah. We will shut down businesses and jail non-violent women for you. You precious, precious little life. You're like, what is it? Is that because all life is precious? Absolutely, yes. Yes, life is precious. That's what this is about. Right, well, what about those black dudes in the jail over there? No. We'll be executing them tomorrow. All right, and the guy that can't afford his treatment over there? Oh, fuck him. Fuck him and his crying family. Right, but all life is precious, is it? Yes. Yeah, no. Somehow, all life is precious, still. Now, in California, they care about, like, actually preserving life. So they've used this same model to sue according to their agenda. Remember, Texas has its agenda and Cali have theirs, right? So Texas sue abortion service providers because removing a load of unconscious cells according to the sticky pages of their shitty holy book is murder, right? So they're allowing people to sue on the basis of that. The separation of church and state was very much a trial separation, apparently. But in California, their agenda is to protect women's health and stop people shooting each other. And so now you can sue if someone is in some way connected to the service of illegal firearms. But it's kind of the same thing, right? You're suing people based on your agenda. And it's quite clever. It's sort of fighting fire with fire, right? That kind of vibe. So they've seen what's going on in Texas and they're like, maybe could we do something like that here? I mean, it really is very, very American, isn't it? It's like, it's not if you sell or are found to have supported in the illegal provision of firearms, you will be stripped of your assets and thrown in a correctional facility until such a time that you've been given training and rehab and shit until you can re-enter society as a happy, healthy, contributing member of it. It's like, it's way more American. It's like, I'm going to sue you, It's like I imagine one American going up to another one like, yo, did you say you knew someone who sells firing pins for guns? Like, bro, you can get bank, like, get that money. It's like, I mean, it really is a win-win-win. Like, the Democrat governor gets to look clever and bold. You get paid, albeit on some bounty hunter kind of grass, super grass shit. And then the blessed lawyers of America get tens of thousands of cases and billable hours. So I guess it's more, the lawyers winning more than anyone else. But that's almost always the case, whatever the case, so to speak. But here's the thing, right? I wonder, like I want this sort of thing to be the clever tit-for-tat progressives getting one up on Republicans, progressives giving Republicans a taste of their own medicine. I want it to be that story that it's being paraded as. But I just wonder... Quick pause for beer, guys. Let me just rehydrate. Hold on. I just wonder if the people who do this shit even have $10,000 legitimate money to pay the bill. Like, do you think they do? Like, if you were a criminal, you get served with a notice or summons or something, right? And you're there in your kitchen. It's 9:30 a.m., cigarette in your mouth, whiskey stains down your fucking ironic joke caption t-shirt, dog on the floor doesn't even want to fucking look at you, radio on top of the kitchen worktop playing G-funk hits of the early 90s. I have no idea why I'm painting such a vivid picture for you. I'm like frustrated storyteller, I guess. Like a couple of crackheads screaming at each other out in the street. One of them thinks the other one took his last few dollars to buy the 40-ounce liquor he's holding, but he didn't. They're just both too wired and fried out to remember that the guy picked up an empty bottle and pissed at it, and now they're both walking around with a bottle of piss, arguing over where he got the money to buy it, because they don't remember that it's just a bottle of piss. And as your bloodied, knuckled hands and blistered fingers open the envelope, you make a gravelly intake of breath. And you read it, and it says, "Our client has grounds to believe that you sold some filaments that were later used to dispatch a firearm specifically used for 2 assault rifles in an Echo Park incident that rendered one man nutless and another one deaf in one ear." I'm struggling with the American accent right now. But you open that envelope, and it says... basically, look, you're being sued because you sold some shit that someone else went on to construct a firearm with, and then people were injured, right? Don't you think you'd be a little bit like, well, yeah, but I live a life of crime. I don't just keep $10,000 lying around in my official government, bank account. Like, my official government income is fucking nothing. You understand? Like, do you think I'm stupid? Like, do you think I'm going to amass a fortune of 400 grand or some shit sitting in the bank for the IRS to go, how did you get that money, you shady motherfucker? Like, we're taking that shit. We're taking all of it. Like, you're going to hide it. Either offshore or as a silent partner in a strip club or a nail salon or some big cash-rich endeavor. So what's actually going to be achieved when they get served with that shit? Fucking nothing. You owe me $10,000. Well, you can try and take it if you want. I mean, look it up. I've officially got nothing right, but you're driving a $90,000 Mercedes. Right, but it's not in my name. Okay, well, you still owe 10 G's, bro. All right, well, my official income is $100 a month through welfare. So how about a court-ordered $7 a month payment plan for your $10,000? Like, $7 a month is what I'll pay you. But, it sounds good on paper. $10,000 fines for anyone connected with illegal firearms. Like, oh, we think this policy is going to be a deterrent. Well, like, what is it? Well, it's a serious deterrent. Right, but what is it? Is it jail? Is it lethal injection? Is it the electric chair? No. Well, what is it? Well, in reality, it's a subscription service. It's $7 a month. They'll be forced into a $7 a month subscription where they get appointments with a financial management guy and a probation woman, and You'd be like, that is fucking ridiculous. Like, how is that a deterrent? Actually, I mean, if we think about it, it's a license fee, right? $7 a month for you having made $400,000. I don't know where the 400k came from. Let's assume guns, trafficking, drug dealing types, 400 grand. It seems reasonable. You've made $400,000 and you've dumped it in a series of relatives and friends' accounts, and now you pay $7 a month fine or license or whatever for having made that money. You still got that money and you can still do whatever the fuck you like with it, but you pay $7 a month now. That's the money you have to pay to have had or made that money. Like, it's kind of fucked, right? Like, they may as well just turn it into a drug dealer's tax. $7 a month and you can do whatever the fuck you like. Sell weapons, buy weapons, coordinate drops, whatever. Get caught 3 years later? Oh shit, man, you are in a world of trouble now, son. I bet you never bargained on an underpaid public office accountant asking you nicely to make payment by the second. Christ. Like, imagine if they formalized it. Imagine if they just said, look, you can sell whatever you like, guns, meth, fentanyl, crack to school kids, you can traffic prostitutes, just front the fucking license fee, fill out the form. Like, California is now Studio 54 or some debaucherous bourgeois nightclub. That's basically what it is. Just pay the fee, do what you like. California is now a filthy, boundaryless harlot. Just drop $27 in a purse and do awful, unholy things. That's kind of where we're at now. Like, the sort of things that we find distasteful in God's country, Texas, unholy, godly things. Like murder, drugs, prostitutes, like fentanyl. You can do all of that shit if you just pay the $7 a month. Which sounds ridiculous, right? And I know I'm being kind of silly here, but we're sort of doing that with this, no? I mean, between you and me, dear listeners, I would love to live in a time where we can go the whole nine with this. Like, let's legalize the worst things in black market society, tax it, and clear the deficit. Like, we've got the highest deficit. I think our deficit now in the UK is over 100% of our GDP. I think I read that the other day. It's like 104%. So even if we handed over all of our money that we make in Britain every year, it would still not be enough to clear the national debt. How fucking wild is that? But that's kind of where I'd like to see, just out of curiosity, I'd like to see us just legalize the worst things in the black market. Drugs, fine, legalize it, tax it, sell it. Murder, yes, legalize it. Like, honestly, by criminalizing murder, you just drive it into the black market and put it in the hands of criminals. It is better to legalize it, regulate it, so it can be done in a safe and civil manner. Like, murder is performed by criminals right now. Do you have any idea how many people die because of black market murderers? It is outrageous. Legalize it, regulate it, and we can legalize murder. Vote Thompson 2024. I mean, it sounds awful, right? And as I say, I'm being ridiculous. But the whole $7 a month fee for the bad thing that you did, as far as I can see, it's kind of what we're fucking doing here, right? Like, or am I losing my mind? You're going to find somebody $10,000 for their illegal firearm, but actually it's going to whittle down to the $7 a month that they can afford to pay, right? It's kind of what we do. I mean, I say we, right? I mean you. I mean you silly Americans, you nutty fucking Yankee bastards. I am just a spectator here. Me watching American politics is like you guys watching European soccer. Like, Americans watch our football, like, they're like, what the fuck is this shit? This is laughable. I feel exactly the same when I watch CNN. with Dixieland cross-waving lunatics marching on, like, the Capitol building on January the 2nd. I'm like, these people have no fucking idea what century they're living in. They're lunatics. They're doped up on opioids. We need to retake over, reinvade America, and re-civilize it. They obviously have got completely the wrong idea. Anyway, this Guardian piece, it says, the US Supreme Court gave preliminary approval to the Texas law, but California's law will automatically be invalidated if the Texas law is eventually ruled unconstitutional. So if too many liberals make a fuss about the Texas law, this Cali law will also fall to pieces. So, okay, cool. But here's a fun question, right? Well, first off, that puts liberals in a bit of a weird position, doesn't it? It's like, we fucking hate the Texas law. We hate the Texas guys suing people for just trying to take care of women. We don't like it. But if we make too much of a fuss, people might end up worse off in California and get murdered. Like, it's kind of a difficult thing to weigh up if you're going to protest it or not. Anyway, here's my fun question, right? So it's a $10,000 fine in California if you were found to have supplied parts or, whatever, into the illegal firearms trade. $10,000. What else do you think gets you a fine of $10,000 in California? Let's see. Let's play with this. Let's see what selling murder machines to motherfuckers is on a par with in the Californian statute or legislation-y books. I'm showing my utter ignorance of American judicial matters here, but here are some things that will get you a $10,000 fine in America. Not in America, in California, specifically. So first one, if you are found to have wasted water in a drought, admittedly, you could be fined up to $10,000. Did I say pounds before? I feel like I did. If you wasted water in a drought, you could be fined up to $10,000. Quick pause for beer. I should start calling it like shit-talking fuel or something. So drought is a big problem in California, right? Clearly. A lot of people worried about the water reserves. There was a big thing a few years back. I don't know if you remember it, but celebrities were watering their lawns. I think Tom Selleck was one of them. Could be wrong. Pretty sure he was, though. Celebrities were watering their lawns, like breaking rules in the middle of drought. People, getting really worried about the supply of fresh water. And these celebrities are like, well, I've worked really hard for this, so no thank you to the drought restrictions. And now they've expanded legal powers so cops can arrest and charge you or fine you for wasting water, right? And possibly up to $10,000. So that's the first one, $10,000 for water wasting. The other one I found was in July 2020, the early part of the pandemic, where a business, if you were a business and you'd broken coronavirus regulations in California, if you were a repeat offender or you'd done it hugely irresponsibly, in that scenario, you could expect a fine of up to $10,000, right? So wasting water or breaking lockdown rules or social distancing or whatever versus selling death machines that go on to fucking murder people. How is there a comparison there? These should be in completely different tiers in the judicial arena. If you water your garden, bro, we're in drought. That's kind of irresponsible. If you opened your deli an hour early and risked giving people COVID-19, maybe one of your staff had COVID-19 and you told him to just go to work anyway. Come on, man. That was a tough time for everyone. You should know better. Selling illegal firearms that go on to definitely end lives, possibly multiple lives, because it's America and we're probably talking automatic weapons here, you nutty bastards. Somehow that's on the same tier as the other two. What the fuck? And here's my favourite one. This is on the same tier punitive punishment-wise as selling illegal unregistered firearms. $10,000 fine for the gun parts, for the scratch removal on the registration number of the assault rifle, and $10,000 for this. This is the news story that I found it on. It's on reason.com, by the way, if you want to go and look at it. It says, California tried to fine a company $10,000 for ordering blind people Ubers and Lyfts without a permit. They ordered blind people taxis, but they haven't filled out the state permit form. So, paperwork, admin, permit forms, that gets you a $10,000 fine. That's the same as you can sue a guy for if he makes a weapon, sells it to a guy who then goes on to shoot your wife and kids in a hotel foyer because his ex-girlfriend works there and he just found out that she fucked his best mate. Like, how nutty is that? That selling firearms that result in multiple murders gets you, you can be sued $10,000, and that's the same as not filling out a fucking permit. It's absolutely batshit. And the Guardian piece still has a little bit more. It says, Newsom, remember he's the Californian governor, for UK listeners, of which, I live in the UK. It says Newsom ran $30,000 worth of full-page adverts in 3 Texas newspapers on Friday, criticizing what he said is Gregg Abbott's hypocrisy on gun safety. And the ads parrot a comment by the Texas governor, but substitute gun violence where he mentions abortion. So this I love, right? Because I know I'm taking the piss out of the policy, but I'm here for the sass of this. I'm a signed up, card-carrying member of Team Petty. Team Prodding the Bear. And I love the fact this Democrat California governor in this liberal weed-smoking state with its progressives and Hollywood and Apple headquarters and tech staff and WeWork cunts and their upspeak, where they all talk like this and raise a sentence at the end of the sentence, no matter if it's a question or not. So you listen to everyone that works in a Californian tech company intently, like you're about to miss an important part of the question and have to repeat the round of the game show or some shit, I love that this Californian governor has taken out these full-page adverts in Texas. To no electoral benefit for himself in California. Texans aren't going to vote in Californian elections. So it is literally just taking out adverts in Texas to fuck with their governor, Gregg Abbott. And of course, Abbott's spokeswoman responds in a typically, gracious, intellectual manner. Can you guess how she responded, dear listeners? Think about it, right? See if you can guess how she responded. The Texas governor, Gregg Abbott, has passed a state legislation that allows people to sue abortion service providers if it's found that they've contributed to supposed loss of life. So then Newsom in California has passed a law that allows Californians to sue gun providers for provable loss of life. Newsom in California then takes out the ads, and it sounds as though he quotes Gregg Abbott, the Texas guy, but scratches out the word abortion and replaces it with guns or something. So thereby making the quite valid point that the Texas governor seems very happy with guns taking lives versus being pro-life, right? And suggesting that California will actually be pro-life in its truest sense by introducing similar legislation for the firearms industry or for illegal firearms, right? Now, how do you think the Texas governor or his spokeswoman, responded? Do you think she countered that firearms and prenatal are very different and here's why? Or, do you think she entered into a levels deep analysis of why it makes perfect sense to basically elect the Bible as president? No, she didn't do either of those. Instead, here's what it says. It says, Governor Newsom should focus on all the jobs and businesses that are leaving California and coming to Texas. That's what she said. Governor Newsom should focus on all the jobs and businesses that are leaving California and coming to Texas, which is just so perfectly Republican. Total non-engagement on the issue. It is not dissimilar to conservatives in the UK, to the Tories, when they refuse to engage on substance, when they demonise experts and so on, and instead they shift, they pivot to symbolism and flags and poppies, you know? Total non-engagement. Obviously cornered and intellectually outgunned on this, she then resorts to, well, we have a few companies that have moved here from California, so that must mean that we're better. That's her argument, essentially. Which, look, yes, you know, I don't live in a fucking other reality situation. I don't live in utter denial. It appears that there are actually a lot of companies that have left California. And I'm sure that a bunch of them have probably considered Texas. So I'm happy to accept that there probably have been like an influx of big companies, sizable companies that have moved out of California and moved down to Texas. But I don't think any of that was anything to do with gun laws or women's rights. I mean, it's actually, to my mind, it's actually kind of the opposite, you know? Corporations have moved states because they hate paying taxes. And their CEOs hate paying taxes. And other states have then given them a good deal. And the homelessness in California has become ferociously bad. You know, let's not ignore that. There's tent cities, there's drugs, there's displacement, there's high rents, there's, you know, your workforce's safety to consider and so on. But nobody's picked up their HQ like, well, you know what'd be good for Tesla? If we banned abortion and made sex education optional in case it offends my God. And if you do teach it, it has to be abstinence-based, you know, which is genuinely what they do there. Texas is so hilariously backward. Like, does Gregg Abbott's spokeswoman actually think they're winning corporations to set up shop in Austin or Houston because of these bold and biblical policies? Fucking no. Of course not. I doubt the CEOs of these companies even fucking live there. I bet they sign on the removal trucks and shift the fucking company there. Get all their staff to hot-tail it down there. Get the bank statements sent there to their Texas home so they're paying zero income tax. Yeah, I totally live in Texas. And then the first chance they get, they fuck off to Malibu or the Hamptons. I bet that happens. Guys, we're all going to move to Texas. Okay, sure. Like, you are too, right? Oh, sure. Yeah, sure. Okay, well, great. Well, I mean, once we're all down there, maybe we'll have, like, you know, a housewarming, welcoming thing on the 2nd, if you're up for it. Oh, shit, the 2nd? Damn. I'm actually flying to Jay-Z's yacht party that day. But I'll be back on the 29th of the following month for audit. Right. Okay, great. Yeah, sure. So, yeah, it says, Governor Newsom should focus on all the jobs and businesses that are leaving California and coming to Texas. And as I say, right, it's perfectly Republican. Here you have two issues, two important key issues relating to the social well-being of almost everyone in society, right? Women's health and gun control. Certainly in American society, right? And it's like, hey, here's some clear messaging about how you might not have thought this through. And they're like, right, but what about your bottom line? Like, it's so Republican. Guys, this has been fun. If you enjoy these shows, please don't be a stranger. Jump on the Patreon. There are 3 tiers. The first one is only £3 a month, which is just enough to buy me a beer, really, and give me a doff of the cap for putting them together. It is also, incidentally, just enough to get me a beer, to get me through doing another one of these shows. Recording these shows takes, curiously, the exact same amount of time as it takes to enjoy one beer. So that's actually quite convenient. The second one is a £5 a month tier, which gets you into my Binfluencer cult. Then you're just a paid-up, certified aid Thompsoner. God help me. Or then there's a third tier, which is £10 a month, which, look, I've said this before, no one needs to pay £10 a month. It is fucking ridiculous, but you have to do 3 tiers when you set up a Patreon. So there's a £3 one and a £5 one, and then I had to do a £10 one. So don't worry, just a beer or the £5 one is fine. And then you get exclusive invites to the London events that I'm looking to put on. The first 10 Patreons get invited to the first London meetup piss up, which will now realistically take place in September. I'm dead psyched. We'll probably find a basement room in a London pub and talk shit about Tories and or Republicans. And I don't know, Darren Grimes or Lawrence Fox or, whatever. I set that goal to get my first 10 Patreons and then do that event. Just invite everyone along, meet everyone, say hey. And 8 of those places have gone already, much quicker than I thought, actually, to be fair. So if you want to be included, if you want to get the invite to that event and the subsequent events, and also get the first look at all of these episodes because they go on Patreon first, then please do jump on patreon.com/Aid Thompson now. If you're not in a position to support the pod, that is totally understandable. I keep saying this, but it is, it's a weird time for everyone. So that's why I keep all of the episodes free on funk-27.co.uk. That's my site, funk-27.co.uk. All of the historic episodes are on there, and they all go on there 2 days after Patreon. So you'll always get access to them. The only thing I would say is that if you are enjoying the podcast, if you've enjoyed a couple of different episodes, maybe share me around, copy the link to the podcast episode that you enjoyed, pop it in a WhatsApp or whatever to a friend of yours, and share me around like the cheap, charmless tart that I am. Honestly, word of mouth is the best form of promo, especially for a low-budget pod that's, relatively speaking, just starting out. Call back to the biro writing on the toilet door joke at the beginning of the podcast. Anyway, so if you wouldn't mind telling a friend about the pod, then that would be amazing. I'm on holiday next week as of Thursday, which is quite nice. It's our first holiday in fucking years. So yeah, dead psyched about that. About the holiday, not the flight. 2 young children on a 16-hour flight. Fuck me. So yeah, if you hear a news story about a plane getting hijacked and crashed into the fucking ground on the way to Phuket, you know what's up. But assuming I don't lose my shit, I shall be recording some audio shows while I'm away, and I'll upload those. Hopefully interviewing some people while I'm out there, because I'm really keen to meet up with a few people who work in tech and maybe other fields, tourism or whatever out there. So I think that's going to be really interesting. So that's all coming up. Anyway, until then, please do keep it strictly #Bimfluencer, #Tories fuck livestock. And until next time, we outie.